So today we'll be looking into the topic of understanding a static keyword. Okay. So when do we use the static, and what is basically the meaning of a keyword static? As we all know, a literal meaning of static refers to not moving or present in the same place. Okay. In the same way, in terms of Java, static refers to a one copy, right, which is fixed, right? Uh, Whenever you have to use the static, they do not have multiple copies, first thing. So you cannot have no copy of it, only one copy of that particular keyword or method or whatever it is. Okay. So this static can be applied for variables. This static can also be applied for methods. If your keyword static is applied for a variable, that means throughout the program, there should be only one keyword of static. One variable that is of static, right? So these static members cannot make any copies. Okay, that means you cannot change it. You cannot um, do any increment or decrement values. So they're fixed, as simple as that. Okay. Similarly, this static can be applied for methods also. Methods can also be fixed. And whenever you are using static keyword, be very careful, because static members can call only other static members. And these static members or these static can only access static data, and they cannot refer to this keyword or super class or calling any class by any form. So these are the three restrictions which a static variable has. Okay, static means fixed. Remember, main method is static. Why? Because only one copy and you cannot have any more copies, because main will be the only function which will be present throughout your program. You cannot have any other. So a best example for a static method is a main method. All right. So they can only call other static methods who can call static variable. They must access only the static data, and this keyword and super keyword will not be working in the static key. Why? Because this dot any static keyword doesn't make any sense. Why? Because I cannot have, the first condition is I cannot have any more variables of the same, because the keyword is static. And apart from that, you also need to use it as this. No, it doesn't work. All right. So when it comes to the super keyword is actually used to access its parent information. All right. So we'll look into that super keyword in our concept of inheritance. Now, for now, you understand that super in the sense calling the base class, super class. Okay. Okay, we have a small demonstration here using of the static. So class use static int a equal to 3 int b. So here you can see that I have created a static under the class use static. So we have two variable a and b. So a is 3 and b, a has been given with assigned with value 3 and b is which is present. Okay. So next we have a method, something called as x. So x in the sense printing what we have in x, that means what it got in x, then incrementing the value of a, incrementing the value of b. All right. So we also have use static. Okay, this is a another. Do they have any class here? Okay. So yeah. So static system.out, then static block initialized, so b equal to a cross 4. Then we have some public static void main some value. So here, whenever Remember, there is one tricky thing here. Main method is in turn present in the same class of useStatic. You don't have any class over here. This is perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine because the example still now what we see is my main method was in another class and my class user class was in another class. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that I wanted to give you that scenario that you should always separate different classes from the main class. But here it has been taken with the same thing. Okay, what is the use of this? So static is one keyword. So why do we use the static here? Means this main method can access the values of this. Why? Because static method can only access static data. First condition. That's the only case why we have used the same keyword here. So public static void main string args. Fine. So meth 42. So there is a method called as meth, and the value which you're sending for that method is 42. So 42, where will it go? It will now go to this method here. So 42. So x value is 42. Then comes below system.out.println x equal to plus x. Automatically, the particular block will be initialized whenever you're accessing the static variable. Whenever you're accessing the static methods, this static block will be initialized, right? And it says static block initialized. Why? Because you're accessing a static method. And why do I have a static method here again? Because static method can be used. I mean, static methods can call only static methods. That is why this main method, as it is a static, it is calling only the static method. So here static keyword has been used. Once it sees the static keyword, the static block will be initialized. So what does this static block do? It will print static block initialized. That's the first printing statement which it does. Followed by it also has a value b equal to a into 4. So what is a? What is a? A value is 3. 3 into 4 is 12. B will be automatically initialized with 12. So what is the keyword? I mean, with respect to variables, how does this static work? With respect to variables, the static word in such a way that only one copy should be there. Only one copy should be there. And if I want to utilize that variable, you should declare it as a static. Okay, so everybody should be a static once if you're dealing with any static variables, static methods. Method itself should be a static. Variable itself should be a static. And if you're calling any very methods, that method should also be a static. That's the beauty of this. Okay. And yeah, only one copy, that should be remembered. You can change the variable values. You can change the variable values, but only one copy. Remember. And yeah, so where were we? So we display static block initiated. It is displayed. Then x equal to x. Okay, what is this x value? X value is 42. It will print the x value, which is 42. Then it will come to this particular line, a equal to what is a? 3. What is b? Of course, b has been updated now. 3 to 4, 12. So b will be 12, right? Seeing the output here. Static block is initialized, the first thing. Then x equal to 42, a equal to 3, b equal to 12. Yeah, so these are the values which we can see. And yeah, the class name. Okay, if you have any, if you want to call anybody outside the static method, if that particular method is outside the particular class where you're actually looking into, then you can call those methods using the dot operator, but you should use the class name. The object name will not work here. That's what we wanted to make sure. Okay, usually what were we doing? That class name we've used to create an object, right? So then using that object, then using that object, what were we doing? Using the dot operator, we used to call that some particular method. But when it comes to the static methods outside its class, object usage will not work. You should straight away use the class name. You should straight away use the class name. Got it? That's the usage here. Let's look into one demo of it. So class static demo. Static int a equal to 42, b equal to some value 99. So static class, static void class me and call me, and it is having some sysout statement a. Let's start with the main method. So what is our main class? Main class is static by name and public static void main. Yeah, this is I'm calling a static method now. So I cannot use an object, right? So we'll look into that demo, and I also would like to show you what is the drawback of it also. Okay, when what will happen if I don't use the class name? Instead of class name, if I use a object name, what will happen? We'll try to understand. So here, so class name is the name of the class in which the static method is actually declared. Static method is actually declared. As you can see, the format is similar to that of non-static methods. Through object reference variable, a static variable can be accessed by the same way, by use of the dot operator and also the name of the class. As simple as that. Even the variable also should be, if you want to access this static variable, then you should use the class name. Okay. Okay, it is initializing. My Eclipse is initializing. And always make a habit that you people will execute the program, try, check, and understand. So unless until you understand or work with these program, you won't learn the art of coding actually. Right? You should see what will be the outputs or what exactly could be the answer or what could be the solution for it. So we'll call it as static class. Still initializing, I guess. Okay, so here, relative. Okay. Last time it was not having the source folder. So in the other pivot, and yeah. Or it is in the format. Here we have a main class that is static class, and we have some class called as static demo where I have these member variables and member functions which I have to access. All right. So here I'll start from the main here. Main is calling some particular method which is present in the class static demo. As you're calling that particular static method, you cannot create with an object, right? That's what I wanted to show. So here, static demo object. I'll create some object here. Yeah, so I have created, and yeah, I'll also assign it equal to new static new static demo. Yeah, so no static demo of the constructor. Yeah, so next, instead of calling with this, I'll call with object, whatever the object which I have. Okay, so I'll call the object, it will come here. So system.out, so it is printing something. So it started showing me something. So if you can zoom it and see, the static method call me from the type static demo should be accessed in a static way, right? So that's particular warning which it is showing you. But still, so what is my A and what is my B? A value was create an object, save it, run it. So, but still, A equal to 49, B equal to 99. I'll tell you what exactly it is showing the output, but as I told you, not a good way. You cannot use it when it comes to the static variables or static methods. Why? Because as I told you, static itself is one particular copy, right? For now, we have one copy, but whenever you subsequently use it, any particular class may have different set of copies of these instance variable, right? If that is the case, then it will show you an error there because this particular variable A is already made as a static. So you have one case is you have to change the variable name, or the other thing is you can make it as a static and access it. All right. So as I said, calling with respect to calling the static variable and static methods just with an object will give you some error. Okay, so here it's just a warning, but whenever you have more number of copies, then it will show you an error. So best case is use those method. Which method? The static methods. Call it using the class name. Okay, so we don't have any error here anywhere. And yeah, we have the value A equal to 42 and B equal to 99, which was actually specified. That's about the static. So next is final. Okay, this is another keyword. Final keywords behave differently with the normal variables. Okay, so the final keyword, wherever you are providing it, that means that particular variable is fixed with that value. Nobody can change throughout the method. Nobody can even change with respect to the class. No variable can increment it. No, basically no change at all for that particular variable. That's about the final keyword. So variable can be declared as final. Doing so prevents its content from being modified. That means you can no more modify it. You cannot change it. And also see to that you always needs to initialize with some option. I'll show you with some program here. If you're not initializing it, you'll get an error. If you're not initializing with any of the values, so you'll be getting an error, right? So this means that you must initialize a variable wherever it is declared. Subsequent part of your program can now use file open if there were constant without fear that the value has been changed. Okay, so whenever you have some values which you may not want to modify, that means what can be there? Usually the phone number. Nowadays we are all keeping only one set of phone number as a permanent number. That's why most of the sites are utilizing that, right? So you can make those phone numbers as the same number because you don't want to change, okay, the final value as of such. So it is common coded convention to choose all the uppercase. Why? Because uppercase characters in the developer's language will be the fixed values. Okay, also dedicated as a final variables. Final declaration as variables declared as final do not occupy memory on a instance basis. Thus, the final variable is essentially a constant. Yeah, we use basically with the constant, but we also have another keyword called as const. Right. So if I get to see about that particular keyword, we'll try to look into also constant. Constants are again a particular variable which is again fixed. It's a constant. The keyword final can also be applied to method, but its meaning is substantially different than when it applied to variable. The second usage of final is described. Yeah, I have been look into that. And yeah, that's about the static and final here. We'll also look into the array revisited. So here we'll try to understand how to access some part of the arrays, right? So whenever you look into the length, right? So we have some inbuilt methods also, right? Which gives us how many variables we have, how many, what's the number we have. We also have many inbuilt function to give the maximum of a given element in an array, the minimum given element in an array, right? So many such functions are already there, but we'll try to understand. Here we look into a few of those example called length, only length, I guess. Okay, so a very small demo program here. We have a main method. We have array 1, 2, 3, which is of single dimension array. So A1, I'm just telling it as we have 10 methods, I mean 10 reserved spaces for array A1, and we have 3, 6, 7, 8 elements in array A2 and 4 elements in A3. So whenever I print these 1, 2, 3, so here length of A1 is A1 dot length. So what does this A1 dot length specify? So A1 dot length, yeah, A1 dot length actually tells us that in this particular array, what is the number of elements which is present? Number of elements which is present. So length is giving you the number of elements that an array can hold or whatever has been allocated to it. All right. So if you do not know how many elements do I have in a particular array, you can always use the array name dot the length. It will give you, or it will return you, the number of elements present in that array which you have specified. So here my A1 will give how many elements do I have in A1. For now we have not initialized, I mean we have not uh, given or initialized with any number of any values, but we have told the compiler that fixed how much space for my initialization, 10 spaces. So 10 will be the spaces which is allocated for A1. So it means you already have a 10 variables which is not initialized. Which is not initialized. What about in array A2? So array A2, as I said, A8 elements or values which we have. So in A3 we have 4. So whenever you access A1 dot length, it will give you 10 but not 0. Why? Because those 10 spaces have already been allotted. Those 10 spaces have already been allotted, but you have not initialized. As simple as that. All right. So it returns the length of A1 as 10, length of A2 as 8, and the length of A3 as 4. All right. So yeah, moving towards the next particular function here, my stack, next particular program here. Yeah, so we have a stack, we have some private int stack array and top toss. Oh, I think this is a program which we used, which I gave you as an assignment. We'll keep it as an assignment. I want you people, because many have not submitted. Next thing is about introducing the nested and inner class. Of course. So classes can also be nested one inside the another class. Okay. Inside one particular class, like in this way. If I have a class A, so if I have a class A, then this class A is actually from here to here. Inside this class A, I can also create a class B, which is from here to here. Right. So this class B is nested inside the class A. That is perfectly fine. So class A is actually called as outer class. Class B is called as inner class. For class, if I want another class inside, you can also give class C inside class B also. So here class C will be inside class C is inside class B is outside class. Why do we go with this sort of a method, right? So a nested, okay, yeah. So if I want the scope to be applied for not only class A, it should also be applied to class B. It should also be applied to class C. Then I go for those inner class and outer class concept. If I want the particular values which has to be applied for class B and class C, then I go in this way. The reverse is not true, remember. And if class B is defined within the class A and B does not exist independently of A, a nested class has access to members, including the private members of the class in which it is nested. As I said, class B will be easily getting the access of the outer class members also. Okay, and however, enclosing class does not have access to members of the nested classes. That's what I said. The outer class cannot have the access towards the inner class members. It's also possible to declare a nested class that is local to a block. There are two types of nested, static and non-static. So what does a static nested class does? So, this static, which it has, it must access the members of it using the class through an object only, right? So as I told you, straight away you cannot access within the members, right? So it's a restriction. Static nested classes are rarely used. Seldom used. So the most important type of nested class is the inner class. That's what the class B here. An inner class is a non-static nested class. It has access to all variable and methods of its outer class, and we refer to them directly in the way that non-static members of the class, other outer class, can. So it can also get the value. No, if it doesn't want the value to be in that way, you can also request this particular value using what? The static. Using what? The static. Alright? I mean, using what? The class name also. I'm very sorry. It's by using the class name also. So the program illustrates about the outer and the inner class. Let's check out here which is outer and which is inner. Which is outer and which is inner. Okay, we have a class outer. Okay, let's write it down, because if you go completely with the program, we won't understand. So we have outer class. So inside the outer class is actually varying from here to here. Then inside the outer class, we have one variable outer x. That means this outer is having one x variable, and we also have one method which is test. Okay, this outer is also having a method which is test. And see here, this scope is from where to where? This outer scope is from here to here. Here to here. This scope is from here to here. This display scope is from here to here. Okay, so this particular scope of outer class is starting from here to, from where? From here to here. That means it is outer from here and it is joined till here. Okay, whatever inside this can be accessible to the inner classes. So who is the inner class now? So the inner class, okay, so here test is there and it has some display. So yeah, whenever I say, yeah, outer class and inner class, we also have a class inner. So this is inner now. So we have a class which is inner, which is inside. Then this inner class also has its own variable, sorry, its own member function, which is called as display. Many advantages are present for the inside class, but not for the outside class. This is what I want to say. Let's brief it out how exactly it is. Inside class can access all the member variables and member functions without actually calling the class itself. If it wants to get the value, it can call the object of that particular class and it can also get it. But The other way is not true. That means outer cannot straight away get the access of this inner class. If it wants to get the access for the inner class, it has to use a keyword called as inner. It has to use the keyword called as inner. Okay, so here I have, where did it go? Yeah, so void test. So inner equal to new inner. So inner dot display. So here you have one particular object of inner of class capital I inner. So if you want to use this particular, if you want to use from outside to inside, then you need a object. Then you need a object. The reverse, you don't need any object. You don't need any object. All right. So beauty of the outer class to inner classes. Inner class can access everything from the outside class without using any objects of the class. But the outside class, if it wants to access the information of the inside class, then it has to create a object, then utilize it. All right. That's about the concept with respect to the inner and outer class. I'll yeah, try out few programs related to outer and inner. So why? Because as I said, both inner and outer class actually is very much important for you guys. All right then. So we'll take up the concept of string and what are the options of it. We'll look into the next class. Thank you. See you. And yeah, take care.